Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Throne of Seal 2 Bright Moon in the Sky episode number 3 based on novel. So let's start. On Long Dangdang's chest, the white light stretched out like a white lotus flower in full bloom. The white light condensed around his body and turned into a protective shield with a diameter of 3. It looked a bit transparent. Long Kong tried to punch it, but what he felt was extremely strong tenacity, and even rebounded, which directly shocked him to sit on the ground. This is the Holy Spirit protection effect of the Holy Lotus spiritual stove. Before leaving, the two magicians from the magic temple told Long Dangdang that the application of the spiritual stove is different for every magician, and each has its own way of using it. As for the details, it needs to be explored and tried continuously. It is the treasure of heaven and earth. How many mysteries are in it? Until now humans have not been able to fully explore it clearly, and they need to rely on themselves to understand a lot. This is a bit handsome. Girls will definitely like it. How about we change it? Long Kong looked at the blooming white lotus, his eyes gleaming. Long Dangdang said angrily, "Get lost. It's you who should get out. Tomorrow you're going to the night academy for class. Go well and don't send me off. Now you are Long Kong, and I'm already Long Dangdang." Long Kong said proudly. Long Dangdang frowned and said, "Is there anything worth noting over there?" "It's nothing. The class teacher's name is Wei Hua, who is very strong. The deskmate is called Shifeng, who is the same age and strong. I don't know anyone else, so I'm just depressed." "What about you?" Long Kong asked. Long Dangdang said, "You have met the head teacher, Teacher Siu. My deskmate is named Aishia. You can change it, but you are not allowed to damage my reputation. You must pretend to be like me. Got it? Isn't it just a shy and black-bellied personality? I will too." While speaking, he restrained his indulgent expression. His eyes instantly became calm and clear, and there was a bit of shyness on his face. If there are outsiders here at this time, they will definitely feel that the two brothers in front of them look like they are looking in the mirror alone. "I'm a little nervous," Long Kong said pretendingly. "Roll. I told you to get out, so don't tell me. My brother said he would be the man who would lead the whole class. Help me take notes from the School of Magic tomorrow. I'll look back later. Come on, stop babbling." Long Dangdang left and went to the dormitory at the night academy. Long Kong sat on the bed, but touched his chest curiously. Until now, the golden light on his body had completely also took off his clothes and looked in the mirror. His body was no different, but the warmth in his body was always seemed that the surrounding air had become warmer imperceptibly, and there was an indescribable bondage between the chest and abdomen. He also learned to meditate today. To practice spiritual power, no matter it is magic spiritual power or internal spiritual power, it is all through meditation, but the way of applying spiritual power is different. In fact, the essence of spiritual power is to communicate with the world, and the other is to communicate with oneself. The difference will become more and more obvious as the cultivation level deepens. At the beginning, the magical spiritual power and the inner spiritual power are actually similar. With his lazy nature, he definitely wouldn't go to practice or anything, so he probably just fell because he was a little curious about the newly obtained spiritual stove of Yuan Vortex. He still tried to meditate in the way Wei Hua taught today. At the beginning, I didn't feel much. Gradually, Long Kong's frizzy temper could no longer sit as the 5 hearts turned to the sky. Visualize yourself, feel yourself pulling the vitality of the outside. Do you feel? Just when he was about to end his meditation and go out to find something to eat, suddenly, the warm feeling between his chest and abdomen seemed to ripple slightly, like ripples in a small warm lake. But the ripples spread all over the body in an instant, and in an instant, the whole body was comfortable, and the comfortable Long Kong even moaned. All the pores of the whole body seemed to have been opened at this moment. It was really comfortable, and even the stomach that was a little hungry was relieved. Is this the effect of meditation? Not long after, that is, about 1 minute, another circle of warmth rippled from between the chest and abdomen, quickly spreading throughout the body, and the comfort came again. Long Kong subconsciously relaxed. The comfort was so wonderful that he soon immersed himself in it, and the warmth that came from time to time lingered in his body and disappeared before. The golden light began to loom on his chest again. In fact, even if the strong man of the magic temple is here, he will not know what happened to Long Kong. Although the Yuan Vortex spiritual stove is somewhat tasteless in a certain sense, the number of production is indeed not large. What's more, this kind of spiritual stove cannot be passed on. Once the host dies, it will dissipate with the host, and the ones handed down will naturally be spiritual furnace absorbed by Long Kong. Today is indeed the last one in this world. However, no matter how bad the spiritual stove is, under normal circumstances, the 6 great temples will never absorb it for a person whose innate inner spiritual power and innate magic spiritual power are only 10 or 9. This is the most ordinary person, who has no qualifications to become a cultivator, and if you force it, it won't have any effect. To be bestowed with a spiritual furnace by the temple, one must have at least 50 internal spiritual power, which is the minimum a genius can use the spiritual furnace to its best, and the Yuan Vortex Spirit Stove is because of its characteristic of increasing the innate spiritual power. It was given to those great geniuses with high innate spiritual power in the past, just like Long Dang Dang. I hope they can make great achievements in the future. Go one step further. In the history of the 6 great temples, there was once a cultivator with 55 innate inner spiritual power, who finally increased his innate inner spiritual power by 10 points through the Yuan Vortex Spirit Stove, which was the highest record. As for Long Kong Kong, under Long Dang Dang's black box operation, he was definitely the one with the worst talent in obtaining the spiritual stove in history. No matter what kind of spiritual stove it also met the conditions of the Yuan Vortex Spirit Furnace invisibly, and the direct absorption was successful. In fact, the host that Yuan Vortex Spirit Stove needs is characteristic of absorbing the energy of heaven and earth determines is purity. The less you have of yourself, the purer it is. For fact that Long Kong Kong's 2 kinds of innate spiritual powers are no more than 10 is actually rare among ordinary. It met the requirements which allowed the Yuan Vortex Spiritual Furnace to absorb the energy of the heavens and the earth by itself, with the least interference from the host, allowing it to integrate with Long Kong Kong's body at an unprecedentedly high degree. That's why it happened that Long Kong Kong's first meditation, under the influence of Yuan Vortex Spiritual Stove, directly entered the level of forgetting both things and me. On the other hand, Long Dang Dang, who came to the dormitory of the Night Academy, had another experience. Putting on the Enlightenment Necklace and starting to meditate, he understood what the Fire Magician meant by the Spirit Gathering Circle that he had given him. The Enlightenment Necklace is a silver chain with a silver crystal-like rhombus pendant, simple and elegant. When he started to meditate, he could vaguely feel that there seemed to be some strange things in his consciousness, and the next moment, a cool feeling came from the pendant, sweeping his whole body in an instant, so that Long Dang Dang obviously has a strange sense of transparency. The strange things he sensed before seemed to become clearer. In his consciousness, he saw some faintly visible colors. When he noticed these colors with the help of the Enlightenment Necklace, the cool feeling it became more and more obvious, and more coolness poured in, making his consciousness clearer, and the colors he saw became more. Long Dang Dang was immersed in the cool and transparent feeling. After an unknown amount of time, when he subconsciously opened his eyes, he was surprised to find that the sky outside had in his own feeling. It seemed that only a few minutes had passed. Blinking his eyes, Long Dang Dang quickly got out of bed and went to the window to look out. Suddenly, he only felt that the world in his eyes seemed to have become more exciting. All the colors were so bright. Look, it seems that you can see transparent feeling is like eating a piece of iced watermelon after being exposed to the sun in summer, but the transparency seems to be in his brain. Bang bang. At this moment, the sound of knocking on the door suddenly deep voice came from outside. Long Kong Kong, you awake? Long Dang Dang was taken aback and realized that he was calling himself the next moment, and hurriedly said, wake up, wake up. He went to the small living room outside and opened the door. When he saw the person in front of him, he felt that the other person might be half his height, which was really oppressive. Master Paladin, please come in. The strong man let the door open and made a gesture of invitation. Behind him is a middle-aged man, slightly shorter than the strong man, but not much shorter, and his whole body exudes a calm aura. Long Dang Dang was very clever, and immediately realized that this should be someone from the Night Temple. Unexpectedly, it came early in the morning. Seeing Long Dang Dang, the paladin's eyes lit up immediately, not because Long Dang Dang was good-looking, but when he saw Long Dang Dang's eyes, he was immediately attracted by the brightness in his eyes. A kind of transparent brightness. The clarity of the eyes corresponds to the clarity of the heart, and also corresponds to the purity of spiritual. The level of paladins, they are very sensitive to this aspect. You are Long Kong Kong? Innate spiritual power 87, asked the other strong man. Also came in and closed the door. Long Dang Dang guessed that this should be Teacher Wei Hua, the head teacher of night class. Yeah. Long Dang Dang decided to say as little as possible, so as not to let Wei Hua see his flaws. Test it. The paladin had no extra words, and immediately took out the test stone and handed it over. Soon, the brilliant gold filled the entire room. Whether it was Wei Hua or the paladin from the Knight's Temple, the eyes instantly became hot. Okay. The paladin looked. Storage ring was handed over. Long Dang Dang was secretly glad that when he heard the knock on the door, he first put away the storage ring given by the Magic Temple. Your talent is outstanding, and you can rank among the top 10 in the history of our Night Temple. This is a subsidy from the temple. However, you have to remember that if you want to become a real knight, you only need talent, and hard work is not enough. You must be upright. The 10 rules of knights must always be kept in mind, and you must not make mistakes at any time, otherwise, the Templar Inquisition will find you. The paladin said solemnly, obviously not as casual as the 2 magicians in the Magic Temple yesterday. Yes? Long Dang Dang replied seriously. The paladin's eyes softened a little and said, in the next 2 years, you must enter the 3rd rank. With your talent, it's very simple. After the 3rd rank, you can choose to guard or punish the knight. When the time comes, the Holy Knight the Temple will also give you new subsidies. This storage ring includes 2 knight swords, a knight shield, and a body armor to protect yourself. There is also a rare knight skill. With your talent, I hope you can pick up that skill in the next 2 years. Yes? It sounded similar to what the Magic Temple gave, but there was nothing to help with cultivation. The Paladin said, there is no shortcut to the cultivation of a knight. Only by going all out, putting in hard work, working hard on your mind and body, can you overcome obstacles. I will encourage you. Thank you, Lord Paladin. Long Dang Dang said respectfully. The Paladin nodded, his right hand touched his chest, and a ball of white light was released immediately. The white light was very soft, but it was jumping following a special energy fluctuation, but it gave people a sense of calmness. That wasn't the energy of holy light. The Paladin's right hand brushed across his chest, and when he opened his palm again, he saw a ball of white light in his small tripod with 3 legs and ears only 1 inch high appeared in his palm. Those white rays of light emerged from the small white cauldron, soft and pulsating, with an attraction that made people unable to take their eyes off it. Spirit furnace? Sure enough, there is a spiritual stove. This is. Long Dang Dang looked at the Paladin in front of him and asked hesitantly. Spiritual furnace, have you heard of it? The Paladin asked. Yeah. Long Dang Dang nodded. The Paladin then described the origin of the spiritual stove, which was basically the same as that described by the one from the Magic Temple. This is the Holy Spiritual Stove, a gift prepared for you by the Knight Temple. There are many types of spiritual stoves, each with its own characteristics, and the spiritual stove itself is also graded. But the more powerful the spiritual stove, the more powerful the spiritual stove needs to be paid to use. The higher the price, the greater the price. This Holy Spiritual Stove ranks about among the 30 known spiritual stoves. But its rarity is enough to compare with the top 10 spiritual stoves. Moreover, because it was the first spiritual stove of a great power, so its ranking has been greatly improved. At the earliest time, the ranking should be outside the 60th place. The Holy Spiritual Stove itself doesn't have any ability to attack and defend, nor can it greatly increase your inner spiritual power. However, it can evolve at least 3 times. It is enough to compare with the top 20 spiritual stoves. But for us knights, it has a great effect. When using the Holy Spiritual Stove, you can attract the attention of the enemy, so that the enemy only attacks you and will not attack your partner. Unless kill you or interrupt the Holy Spiritual Stove yourself, otherwise it can only target you. Maybe, you still can't understand the mystery of this. But you will definitely understand how powerful it is in the future. At the same time, the biggest advantage of the Holy Spiritual Stove is that it is the rarest non-attribute spiritual stove. Not only does it not, it will put a load on your body during use, and at the same time, it consumes relatively little spiritual power. It will not affect your absorption of other spiritual stoves in the future. Therefore, the temple chooses it as your first spiritual stove. I hope you can like this gift. As for what other abilities it can evolve in the future, you can only explore it yourself. Also, you have to keep in mind that the spiritual furnace is not omnipotent. It is not that the more powerful the spiritual furnace is, the better for you. The top 10 spiritual furnaces have to pay a huge price to use. Some of the costs are even unbearable for us. Yes. The number of spiritual furnaces is not as good as possible, and a detailed judgment must be made before deciding whether to integrate a new spiritual furnace. Long Dang Dang asked, Master Paladin, how many different spiritual furnaces can each person fuse? I don't know. Theoretically speaking, there is no limit to the number. However, conflicts between spiritual stoves are easy to occur. Once this happens, then, for the fuser, it is close to death. The most known fusion of spiritual stoves is 5, but it does not mean that the more fusion spirit stoves, the better. Spiritual stoves need to be evolved through continuous efforts, and a spiritual stove that has evolved several times is even more powerful than the sum of several spiritual stoves that have not evolved. Long Dang Dang continued to ask, just now you said that this Holy Spiritual Stove is a non-attribute spiritual stove, that is to say, if I already have a spiritual stove, I can also fuse it, no matter what kind of spiritual stove it is. The Paladin was taken aback by his question, you already have a spiritual stove? Where did you get it? Long Dang Dang said shyly, it was given by the Magic Temple yesterday. The Magic Temple gave you the spiritual stove? The voice of the Paladin suddenly became a little higher. Long Dang Dang said shyly, yes, the Magic Temple came to give my brother a subsidy, and brought 2 spiritual furnaces for my brother to choose. My brother chose the Holy Lotus Spiritual Stove, and the other Yuan Vortex Spiritual Stove. Let me try it, and if it is possible to help me increase my innate spiritual power to more than that, I will absorb it. Original Vortex Spiritual Stove? The voice of the Paladin became even louder, have you successfully absorbed it? Long Dang Dang nodded, it was a success in one go. Will it affect the absorption of our Holy Spiritual Stove? The paladin fell silent, his eyes flickering with uncertainty. "What's your brother's talent?" he asked suddenly. Long Dang Dang said, "It's worse than me, the innate magic power is 84. The paladin was stunned, and Wei Hua next to him said, "Their family is a double dragon, it is true. They are all geniuses of our academy." "What is the magic temple doing?" the paladin said to himself angrily. Long Dang Dang tentatively asked, "Master Paladin, can I still absorb this holy spiritual stove?" The paladin had recovered at this time, of course. "How about this, you absorb the holy spiritual furnace first, and this weekend, you bring your brother to the night branch of Tinglong City. There are still 3 days before the weekend," Long Kong Kong calculated in his mind. The paladin said, "Keep your mind, I will fuse the spiritual furnace for you now, and the fusion method of each spiritual furnace is different. In the past, the most basic level of fusion of the spiritual furnace required a third-level professional, that is, spiritual power of more than it will work. But after many years of continuous experimentation in the temple, each spiritual stove has a detailed corresponding spiritual power. The requirement for the holy spiritual stove is about points, and the sum of your internal and external spiritual power is enough." While talking, his left hand flickered and tapped 4 times on Long Dang Dang's chest, and 4 white lights appeared. Dang Dang felt as if his body had been pierced through, and his inner spiritual power was instantly aroused. The paladin pulled up his right hand, and a little golden light carefully cut his fingertips to squeeze out a drop of bright red blood floated up from the paladin's spiritual power, and lightly landed in the holy spiritual stove. Immediately, the small white cauldron that originally emitted soft light burst into dazzling white light was quickly released from it and landed on Long Dang Dang's chest. The warm feeling stimulated all the pores of his body to open in an instant, and the inner spiritual power that was hovering in his body also spread to the surroundings in an instant, as if an intruder was about to enter his body. White light flickered, and under the traction of this white light, the small white cauldron slowly flew to Long Dang Dang's chest, and penetrated inward little by little. The original warmth instantly turned into scorching heat, as if a branding iron was branded on his. Dang Dang gritted his teeth tightly and did not make a sound. The holy lotus spiritual furnace in his body was stimulated, and he even had an urge to release it, but he forcibly suppressed it with his willpower. Fortunately, the burning didn't last too long. After a few breaths, the white small spirit stove disappeared into his body. The faint white light rippled in Long Dang Dang's body, making his skin surface gradually reveal a layer of lustrous luster. Long Dang Dang only felt that countless fiery energies spread from his chest to every corner of his body, including his profound truths flooded into my mind. Along with this fiery the chest, along with the flickering light, there will be imprints of small spirit furnaces appearing one after another. This is the process of the integration of the holy spiritual stove and Long Dang Dang. Using blood as a guide and spiritual power as a medium, the magical spiritual stove formed by the condensed essence of the world has completely become a part of his body. The paladin showed satisfaction on his face. The fusion went very smoothly. "It's very good. However, the fusion of the Holy Spirit furnace needs to consume a lot of your innate spiritual power, and your total spiritual power will decline for a period of time. It depends on you. I will re-elevate myself through cultivation." Long Dang Dang asked, "When all the spiritual stoves are fused, will the spiritual power decrease?" The paladin shook his head and said, "That's not necessarily the case. Every kind of spiritual stove is born with nature and has its own characteristics. They are all unique. Well, it won't affect your going to class later. Remember to bring your younger brother to the branch hall on weekends." "Yes." The paladin left. Wei Hua directly took Long Dang Dang to have breakfast, and then went back to the class to study. But at this very moment, on the other side, the head teacher of Class 1, Grade 1, School of Magic is at the door of Long Dang Dang's dormitory. Because Long Dang Dang, or the replacement Long Kong Kong, didn't go to class today. Standing outside the dormitory door, Yu raised her hand and was about to knock on the door. Suddenly, she seemed to feel something, and she couldn't help. Is a 5th-level magician herself, and her mental power is not weak. She can clearly feel that there is a strange suction force coming from the dormitory from time to time. The suction force is not aimed at objects, but at air, the power of heaven and earth in array. It's not right. It is impossible for the spirit gathering array to have such a good effect. Even I can feel it outside the dormitory. But what she can be sure of is that her student is definitely still practicing at the moment. Could it be that he has already entered the state of samadhi when he is just a beginner, or deep into concentration? At this time, it must not be disturbed. Thinking of this, Yu didn't knock on the door. In order to ensure the safety of her gifted student's cultivation, she even stayed behind and guarded the door. And this wait is all morning. It wasn't until the sun approached the middle of the sky that the siphon feeling in the room gradually. Long after, the door on the uniform of the Academy of Magic, Long Kong Kong came out from inside. "Huh, beautiful teacher?" As soon as he went out, Long Kong Kong saw Yu. "Are you here to pick me up for class? Is the treatment at the Magic Academy so good?" Sayu looked at him and couldn't help but see a bright light. Longsheng's eyes were extraordinarily bright, full of energy, and even a bit of essence, and introverted is clearly the effect that can only be obtained after a very sufficient and extremely effective. Can't help but secretly admire in my heart. I am indeed a genius. While other students are still groping for the feeling of meditation, everyone can complete deep meditation. What time do you see? Sayu said. Looking up at the sky, Long Kong Kong couldn't help scratching his head, just about to say something, when suddenly Long Dang Dang's instruction sounded, and he said, "Teacher, let's go to class quickly. It's lunch break now. What class do you have? I'll take you to the cafeteria for dinner first." Sayu said. "Okay. I'm really hungry. Okay. I'm really hungry." Each branch of the temple college has its own canteen. When Sayu brought Long Kong Kong to the canteen, the students of Class 1, Grade Magic, were also having lunch together. The tuition at Temple College is expensive, but the food is quite good. Classes are held 5 days a week and they live on campus. On weekends, they can go home and rest for 2 days, and then come to class again, and so on. Sayu took Long Kong Kong to eat and came to the classmates to eat together. Long Kong Kong's eyes lit up in an instant, and he almost laughed out loud when he saw the obvious situation where Yin was flourishing and Yang was so beautiful. This is what school should look like. It's much better than the rain, wind, flowers, leaves, and flowers at the night academy. "Hello, teacher." Seeing Sayu coming, the students rushed to say hello. "Don't get up, let's continue to eat." Well, this morning, Long Dang Dang didn't come to class because he entered deep meditation. Everything will be as usual in the afternoon. Wow, have you been able to enter meditation yet? Long Kong Kong just sat down, and a pretty female classmate beside him looked at him with reflective eyes. "How did you enter meditation?" "I tried for a long time yesterday and couldn't do it." Long Kong Kong said proudly, "It's almost like sleeping. Anyway, it's just like what the teacher said, and then it's like falling asleep. It's really comfortable. After waking up, it's more beautiful than sleeping." "Then can you teach me?" the female classmate asked. "Sure. No problem." Long Kong Kong's character has always been out of character, and he fully agreed. "That's right. You can teach us too," a boy sitting opposite said immediately. Long Kong Kong rolled his eyes and was about to refuse, but suddenly remembered Long Dang Dang's earnest advice yesterday, coughed and said, "Just follow what the teacher said." Sayu said, "Beginner's meditation experience is different for everyone, but the goal is the same. In the end, success must be entered into a state of concentration. Long Dang Dang, when you have class in the afternoon, you will share with everyone that you entered a state of meditation yesterday. Give everyone a little inspiration." Feeling the gazes of the students, especially the female students, Long Kong Kong suddenly felt a little flustered. "No problem, let me take everyone flying." This afternoon's class, for Long Kong Kong, can be regarded as the most serious one in his life. When he told the students about his meditation process, everyone's unified reaction was that we don't understand the world of geniuses. After dinner, Long Dang Dang and Long Kong Kong gathered in the dormitory of the Magic Academy. Long Dang Dang gave Long Kong Kong all the things given by the Knights Temple today, including the storage ring. "Brother, can I completely change with you, and I will be here at the Magic Academy in the future. I think that through today's study, my enthusiasm for learning has been greatly improved. You don't know, when female students, the feeling when you look at me with adoring eyes is really..." Long Dang Dang said with a dark face, "What did you say yesterday? Did you agree to keep a low profile?" "I also want to keep a low profile. But my strength doesn't allow it. By the way, I'll give you the notes." While talking, Long Kong Kong took out 6 notebooks with different shapes but obviously all exquisite. "Why so many?" Long Dang Dang was startled. Long Kong Kong said triumphantly, "When I told my female classmates that I wanted to borrow their notes to copy, everyone expressed their willingness to lend them to me. I picked the 6 most beautiful ones, including the one at the same table called Aisha's girl. I have decided that when I go to class tomorrow, I will give them points in terms of appearance, voice, and other aspects, and arrange them in order." "Oh, it's so beautiful." Long Kong Kong, roll as far as you can. "You said that you fell into samadhi last night and didn't wake up until noon today?" Long Dang Dang asked. "Yeah. I didn't expect this meditation to be so much more comfortable than sleeping. It's really beautiful. I saw a beautiful teacher when I got up at noon today. It's really a happy opening. Now I feel that going to school seems to be a very good thing." Long Dang Dang said thoughtfully, "It should be caused by your vortex spiritual furnace. By the way, the Night Temple did send a spiritual furnace, but it requires a total spiritual power of more than points to absorb it. Take it, call it the Holy Spiritual Stove." He briefly explained the power of the Holy Spiritual Stove to Long Kong Kong. "That's good. Isn't it just to attract hatred? If we meet some opponents when we go out, then you can do it," Long Kong Kong said excitedly. Long Dang Dang said, I reckon that the Temple of Knights may give another spiritual stove. As the strongest temple, they can't be worse than the Temple of Magic. Anyway, let me take you to Tinglong City on the weekend, the Night Branch Hall. Let's go and have a look. Long Kong Kong looked at Long Dang Dang vigilantly. You want to get me another spiritual stove? Don't waste it, it's useless. Even if I have a spiritual stove, I can't be a good student like you. Long Dang Dang said angrily, look at your potential, why don't you give it for nothing? The poison is sweet and sour. Take it first and then talk about it. By the way, have you thought about it and are ready to practice what kind of skill? I took a class today, and I think the basic skills of knights are really practical. It's worthy of being the first temple. I'll tell you now, listen carefully. Long Kong Kong said, what are you listening to, as long as you know how to do it? Long Dang Dang kicked him on the butt. I can't follow you all the time. What should I do if I reveal my secrets? You dare to kick me? Long Kong Kong rushed over with bared teeth and claws. Long Dang Dang looked at him with a half smile. The milky white light flashed instantly. The Holy Lotus Spiritual, instead of emptying the dragon away, the Holy Lotus Spirit Stove was used to enclose him in a shield with a diameter of 3 meters. Come on. Be merry. Long Kong Kong's scream soon echoed in the Holy Spirit Shield. Spiritual power is amazing, isn't it? That's right. It's amazing. Long Kong Kong, I'm not a teacher. You can't fool me. If you don't learn from me today, I'll beat you up. This is not home, and no one can save you if you call potty enough. When Long Kong Kong was thrown back to the dormitory of the Night Academy by Long Dang Dang, he felt as if his whole body was falling apart. Basic slashing and slashing 1,000 times, plus urging spiritual power to inject night swords 100 an hour of actual combat for the so-called actual combat is basically unilateral difference in innate spiritual power. Even if they absorbed a lot of Long Dang Dang spiritual power in the Holy Spiritual Stove, the gap between the two is still blessing of spiritual power to strength alone made Long Kong Kong unable to resist. Long Dang Dang, you wait for me. Long Kong Kong collapsed directly on the bed, and fell asleep after muttering a few words. The faint golden light, just after he fell asleep, appeared again silently, and the heaven and earth energy in the air naturally condensed towards his body. Sleeping Long Kong Kong, with the flickering of pale golden light on his body, his brows gradually relaxed, and his breath seemed to be completely relaxed. The next week's study is mainly based on basic knowledge. Knights start to add body training, magicians add the perception of a week. Long Dang Dang has benefited a lot, because he learned magic and knight ability at the same time, and his life was very fulfilling. Long Kong Kong is lazy, but he has to work hard to memorize some, otherwise he can't teach his brother, and he still remembers it. In the night course, as the class monitor, he had to work hard. After all, he said that he would take the students to fly. Anyway, he didn't feel anything about the elemental awareness of the magician course. After all, with his innate talent, it would be strange if he could feel it so soon. Finally, the weekend is here. After school in the evening, the lazy Long Kong Kong disappeared, and he was replaced by a radiant him. I can finally go home. I'm so happy. Brother, where shall we go tomorrow? Long Kong Kong asked excitedly. Long Dang Dang said with a half smile, let's talk about it tomorrow. This is my magic note for today. Here it is, remember it later. Don't embarrass me if you can't answer the teacher's question. Also, if you dare to tease Aisha, I will strangle you to death. Long Kong Kong took the magic note and yelled with a grievance on his face, why did I tease her? Don't frame me. Framing you? What happened to the breakfast she put on my table this morning? I've already eaten it, but it's because of you that I ate it again. Long Dang Dang was furious. Long Kong Kong rolled his eyes. I just said it casually yesterday, saying that I sometimes ran to class without having breakfast in the morning. It proves that girls are kind. Do you understand kindness? You can't do it if you don't eat it. I? Long Dang Dang wanted to stop eating, but in front of outsiders, he was still a little shy after all. Looking at Aisha's big shining eyes, he really couldn't say anything, and then he ate a double much so that when he realized the elements in the morning, all he felt was the fullness of his stomach. Long Kong Kong smiled and said, the girls in your class are really nice, they are all very kind. Long Dang Dang also smiled, and said lightly, from next week on, you can stay in your night academy and take classes. What? Long Kong Kong's eyes widened. Long Dang Dang said, we will start trying to release the elements next week. Tell me, what do you use to release? Do you have any? Snapped, Long Kong Kong only felt that his heart was broken and his happiness was gone. Honestly, study at the Night Academy, at least it's not so easy for the knights to reveal their secrets. After speaking, Long Dang Dang shook his head, turned his head and left. The water of Tinglong Lake, my tears, brother, then help me. Help me get it, how can I have elemental awareness? Okay. When you can use magic, you can go to class. Even one element is fine. It was still a little distance from Temple College to their home. Their home lived in the city center. Fortunately, Soaring Dragon City was not too big. When it was already dark, the two brothers finally walked into the house. "Dad, Mom, we're back," Long Kong Kong shouted as soon as he entered the door. Soon, with the fragrant wind blowing in his face, Ling Shuifei also rushed out and hugged Long Kong Kong. "Darling son, you didn't suffer any grievances at school, did you?" "That's not it. The wind is booming. I'm the squad leader now. Are you powerful?" "My son is the best." Long Dang Dang pulled Long Kong Kong away and threw himself into his mother's arms. "I'm the most tired one. You have to cover up on both sides." "Yeah, my family is the best." Ling Shui patted her son's head with a smile. "Get out of the way." Long Kong Kong hurried over. "Let's go." Okay, let's hug together." Ling Shui smiled and opened her arms to hold both sons in her arms, and suddenly felt as if she had embraced the whole of which the two 10-year-old sons are only half a head shorter than her. "Hey, you two little ones are back." At this moment, Long Lele's voice came from outside the door. Wearing a priest's robe, he walked in with a smile, but the two sons obviously didn't intend to go up to get close, and they all leaned against their mother. "Father, every time I see you wearing a priest's robe, why do I feel so sanctimonious?" Long Kong Kong said with a smile. Long Lei said lightly, "That's because your skin is itchy again. A son's dinner is definitely a sumptuous one." Seeing the two sons gobbling up, Ling Shuixiao's eyes and eyebrows turned into crescent moons. Long Lei observed his two sons while eating. They haven't seen each other for a week. Both of them seem to have changed, mainly in temperament. Long Dang Dang has changed as he expected. He started to learn magic orthodoxly, and his mental strength began to improve. Temperament changes are his surprise. Long Kong Kong's changes were not small. Although the tiredness in his expression was still there was also a touch of high spirits. "Tell me, what have you gained this week?" Long Lei asked with a smile. Long Kong Kong said carelessly, "It's nothing, just received 3 spiritual furnaces, and received some subsidies from the Magic Temple and the Night Temple. No, the two of us each have a storage ring. This thing is really convenient. Beautiful. What the hell?" Long Lei and Ling Shui said almost in unison. "Subsidies. The Magic Temple gave necklaces, staffs, scrolls, and so on. The Night Temple gave inner armor, night swords, and shields." Long Kong Kong said. "No, I meant you in the previous sentence." Long Lei stood up with his arms propped up on the dining table excitedly. "Oh, the spiritual stove. I gave 3, 2 from the Magic Temple, and 1 from the Night Temple. But the Night Temple let us go there on weekends. I don't know if we can make up for another one." Long Kong Kong said with a smile. "Shut up, Dang Dang, you say it. Is what Kong Kong said true?" Ling Shui also knew that the younger son was unreliable, so she turned to the older son who was relatively better. "Well, it's true," Long Dang Dang replied. "Mom, what do you mean? Don't you believe your emptiness?" Long Kong Kong immediately stepped forward and hugged his mother's neck. "Don't make trouble, let's talk about business." Ling Shui slapped him, and her face became serious. "Don't look at usually being beaten by the father, but if you want to say that they are afraid, the two brothers are still more afraid of their mother. After all, the mother is the head of the family." Long Lei asked eagerly, "What kind of spiritual furnace are they?" Long Dang Dang said, "The Sacred Lotus Stove and Yuan Vortex Stove given by the Magic Temple, and the Sacred Spirit Stove given by the Knight's Temple." Long Lei's body trembled a little. Okay. He looked at Ling Shui, and when Ling Shui looked at him, her eyes were obviously more tender. Ha. What I didn't get back then, my sons doubled it back. Good, that's great. Ha. Long Lei suddenly laughed. "It's worth it, even if I was dismissed this time. It's worth it, no. Anyway, the spirit stove can't be spit out after it's been absorbed. Ha. Suddenly, he seemed to realize something. That's not right. As the signboard of the Knight's Temple, the holy spiritual stove requires at least points of spiritual power to absorb it. Can it be absorbed? I smoked it. I went for him. To test." Long Dang Dang said. "You have 3 spiritual stoves alone? Can this be absorbed?" Long Lei asked in surprise. "Both of me, my younger brother has absorbed the Yuan Vortex spiritual stove. Original Vortex spiritual furnace? I don't seem to have heard of this." Long Lei said, "Tell me in detail." At that moment, Long Dang Dang explained the gifts from the 2 great temples and the explanation of the spiritual stove. After listening to his narration, Long Lei couldn't help sighing. These guys in the temple are really serving people. They are so generous when they meet geniuses. It's worth it. Having said that, he turned to Long Kong Kong. Now that you have the spiritual stove of Yuan Vortex, you also have hope. Although you don't know how much spiritual power you can increase in the future, you will conduct a test every month in the future to see is there any increase in innate spiritual power. If so, maybe you can become a genius like your brother. Long Kong rolled his eyes. Who wants to be a genius? I just want to lie flat. Long Dang Dang said, Father, what the academy is learning is relatively basic now, and it's not easy to reveal the truth at the moment, but I'm afraid it won't take long, and it will be difficult to hide it when the Night Academy starts to have combat drills. Stop, after all, I can't always be there to replace Kong Kong. The School of Magic has to start learning some basic magic, and Kong Kong can't replace me here if he doesn't understand the elements. So, I have an idea. Shut up. Long Kong Kong jumped up and rushed towards Long is too familiar with his brother. Whenever he says I have an idea, it means he is going to start cheating people. Long Lei Lei grabbed Long Kong Kong immediately. Dang Dang, you say it. Long Dang Dang said seriously, Father, you and Mother have worked so hard to let Dang Dang enter the Temple Academy, just hoping that he can learn some useful things in the academy and become a useful person in the future, right? In that case, we must not easily expose our imposters. Although Kong Kong's inner spiritual power is slowly improving, because I absorbed the holy spiritual stove before, I can temporarily use the excuse that the spiritual furnace has absorbed a lot of spiritual power, so the inner spiritual power he has declined. Therefore, as long as he works hard in external spiritual power, he should not be left behind by his classmates. We can come back every weekend, and I think it can strengthen his improvement in this area. Long Lei Lei looked at Long Dang Dang with a look of relief. Dang Dang, you really have grown up and have the demeanor of an elder brother. What you said makes sense. Long Kong Kong said violently, that makes sense, Dad, you don't even know what he did to me in the academy. He abused me every night, forced me to practice, and beat me if I didn't practice. I'm so pitiful. Long Lei Lei's eyes became brighter. Well played, Dang Dang, you did the right thing. Turning to his younger son, Long Lei Lei had a smile on his face, empty. Your weekend of despair is about to begin. The Tinglong branch of the Knight's Temple. The two brothers, who looked exactly the same and had delicate features, climbed the steps together. Long Kong Kong remained silent with a cold face, very different from his usual. Dang Dang walked side by side with him, and did not initiate a conversation with him. Seeing that the grand gate of the Knight's Temple had arrived, Long Dang Dang stopped and turned to look at Long Kong Kong. Long Kong Kong said coldly, What are you looking at? He was really angry, yes, very felt that he had been targeted by the whole they have inferior talents, so they can lie flat, why, they have to force themselves to practice weekend past. It was definitely in dire straits, and it was even worse than being tossed by Long Dang Dang alone in the academy he just tossed himself for these 2 days at home. It was really tossed from morning to night every day. You exhausted, the point is, there is also a nasty pastor father at home. Whenever he is exhausted, what the hell is healing him? When he was lying on the ground and was about to forcefully smash it, he saw his mother's beautiful and wife. Mixed doubles is really unbearable. Mom's identity as a summoner. What the hell is calling a hyena to chase him down? Why is this family so cruel? You said, if our identities are exposed, what kind of punishment will Daddy receive from the temple? Why did Daddy send you to the academy even at the risk of being severely punished? Obviously he can let you go down like this. The corner of Long Kong Kong's mouth twitched. Moral kidnapping. Do you know this is moral kidnapping? Long Dang Dang spread his hands and said, It's up to you. Then you can tell the Knight's Temple later that your talent is fake. Well, if the father is taken away in the future, this family can only rely on me. I'm dying. My mom washes her face with tears every day. With that said, he walked straight towards the gate of the Knight's Temple. I? Long Kong Kong jumped and roared angrily, Long Dang Dang, you wait for me. At the gate, I explained the purpose of my visit to the guards, and the guards led the two of them into the temple. Long Dang Dang is familiar with this place. He has conducted the innate inner spiritual power test here, but this is the first time for Long Kong Kong to come here. Stepping into the halls of the Knight's Temple, his anger was quickly replaced by the Knight's Temple. There are 6 statues of huge thrones. Divine Throne, this is the symbol of the Knight's God-sealed knight in each generation is an existence at the level of a federal was also the mainstay of the fight against the demons. These 6 divine thrones are the root of the Knight Temple's reputation as the first temple for thousands of years. The guards brought them into the hall, told them to wait here, and continued to guard the gate. Long Kong Kong had been to the Temple of Magic before. Compared with the Temple of Magic, the Temple of Knights was a little less grotesque, but more majestic, and he walked up to Long Dang Dang and stood side by side with his elder brother to fight against the little anxiety in his heart. Who is Long Kong Kong? At this moment, a somewhat lazy voice sounded. The two brothers turned their heads and looked in the direction of the sound, only to see a person walking out from behind the hall of the Knight's Temple. This man looks about 50 years old, his sideburns are a little grey, the beard on his face is unkempt, and the same is true for his hair, which seems to have not been washed for a uniform of the Knight's Temple on his body was also very worn out, and the sleeves were still stained with oil. He walked and gnawed something like a steamed bun in his hand, and walked towards them with a street pace that no relatives recognized. Come over. Looking at his steps, Long Kong Kong instantly felt cordial. When he was in the junior college, he often swung his arms like this to make jokes in the college, and he always made the girls laugh. He immediately walked towards the sloppy knight with the same steps. I am Long Kong Kong. The sloppy knight looked at the boy who tilted his head, swayed his arms, and walked towards him in a sloppy pace outside the street. He couldn't help laughing, and stopped. You brat dare to imitate me, isn't he brave? Long Kong Kong tilted his head and said, everyone is a street slut and a knight, so let's not distinguish between young and old. The sloppy knight's eyes lit up. Not bad, not bad. You have a good temper. Come on, sign this. While speaking, he shook his hand, and a scroll that looked a little dirty floated towards Long Kong Kong. Come here, and there is also a pen floating at the same time. Long Kong Kong took the scroll and pen, and asked doubtfully, what is this? The sloppy knight swayed in front of him. Contract, master-student contract. After signing this contract, you will be my lifelong disciple of the great knight Nay. Are you surprised? Are you honored? Long Kong Kong rolled his eyes, and threw the scroll back to him. I don't want to sign it. Although I can be a street slut lying flat, I'm still a clean boy. Want to trick me into becoming a teacher? There's no way. The sloppy knight said angrily, Fart, why don't I like to be clean? I'm just afraid of trouble. Do you know how many people want to worship me as a teacher? This is the greatest honor of your life. Long Kong Kong sneered, old man, go back to sleep, you have everything in your dreams. Then he turned and walked towards Long Dang Dang. What do you call me? How old am I? The sloppy knight jumped 3 feet high as if his tail had been stepped on, and stood in front of Long Kong Kong. Long Kong Kong was taken aback, but he never gave up. Why aren't you old? I'm 10 years old. How old are you this year? Are you older than me? The sloppy knight got angry, and handed the scroll to him again. The little bastard is not big or small. Don't talk nonsense. Sign the contract quickly. I will take you back to the holy city, to the spiritual stove academy. Don't even think about it. Long Kong Kong raised his head proudly. The anger he had just suffered at home during this desperate weekend was ignited. It's fine if mom and dad force me, but you, a street rider, want to force me. The sloppy knight was stunned for a moment, and murmured, you have a bit of integrity. Then why are you willing to apprentice? Long Kong Kong didn't speak, but Long Dang Dang had already moved over. Senior, you asked my younger brother to be a teacher, and you must tell us who you are, and then talk about the benefits of having you as a teacher. Nay scratched his head. Is that so? This is also my first time, and I'm really a little unskilled in business. Okay. Looking at the two brothers who looked exactly the same in front of him, he said, my name is Nae, a 9th level holy knight in the Night Temple. Is it good or not? It must be a lot of benefits to follow me. What? Are you a holy knight? You're the only holy knight? Then I'm still a God-sealed knight. Long Kong Kong looked disbelieving. Bastard, look after you. Nay was furious, pointing to the sky with his right. The entire hall of the Knight's Temple lit up instantly, and the brilliant golden light immediately filled the entire hall of the Knight's Temple with a sacred atmosphere. Immediately afterwards, a huge light and shadow rose from behind him. When Long Dang Dang and Long Kong Kong saw the light and shadow clearly, they were all stunned. It was a huge seraph, beautiful and sacred, more solid like a solid body. See, the angel's embrace cast by the Templar Knights is a 2-winged angel, and the angel's embrace cast by the 8th rank Paladin is a 4-winged angel. Only the seraph cast by the 9th rank Holy Knight can be called the Archangel's Embrace, Nay said proudly. While talking, the huge angel has opened his arms and made a hug towards Long Dang Dang and Long Kong Kong. Immediately, the two brothers only felt that their whole bodies were surrounded by rich warmth, as if their entire bodies had been baptized. The sense of transparency from the inside out was indescribably. Whole body seemed to become crystal clear. Long Dang Dang felt that the spiritual power he had consumed due to the fusion of the Holy Spirit stove had recovered quickly, and his mind became clearer. In his perception, there were light elements as viscous as a liquid around him, which made him wonder. The perception of light elements has been greatly. The body is being baptized by the warm current. It seems that something has been washed away from the body, and the whole person feels sublimated. Long Kong Kong's change was another way. When the Archangel's embrace fell on him, the pale golden light quickly transformed into a golden vortex on his chest, absorbing the golden light quickly. At the same time, he also felt that his body has become transparent, and he also has the feeling of being baptized by the warm current. The exhaustion of the desperate weekend, whether it is physical or mental, has disappeared, and it is replaced by an indescribable comfort which is better than meditation. Still comfortable when sleeping. Nae's gaze was always on Long Kong Kong, and when he saw the Yuan Vortex spiritual furnace appearing on Long Kong Kong's chest absorbing the light elements emitted by his Archangel's embrace, his eyes lit. Integration, even in the records of the temple history, it doesn't seem to have happened, right? His Vortex spiritual furnace can actually absorb the power of elements directly, and it is still converting it into spiritual power during the process of circling and absorbing. Found a treasure. I really found a treasure. The golden light gradually died down, and the figure of the archangel faded away. Long Dang Dang and Long Kong Kong fell back to the ground. Behind Nei's hands, he looked like a master and said proudly, "Did you feel it? You are still too weak. The archangel's embrace is the most powerful healing skill for knights. What you just felt is not even 1% of it. But it is also enough to dredge the meridians and stabilize the sea of consciousness for you, and there are many benefits. Long Kong Kong, why don't you hurry up and learn from your teacher?" Long Kong Kong blinked. "Even if this can prove that you are a holy knight, what about sincerity?" He stretched out his right hand and rubbed his fingers towards that leaf. Nae was startled, and then said dumbfoundedly, "Stinky boy, do you know the meaning of the 9th level skill? The archangel's embrace cleanses your body for both of you. Isn't that enough proof of my sincerity?" "That's what you said. I don't know if you are exaggerating. Let's be more practical. The magic temple gave us 2 spiritual stoves, and the night temple gave us 1. You should at least get another spiritual stove. Give it to us." Although Long Kong Kong wanted to lie flat, he also knew what the 9th rank meant in the Federation. It was the top existence. "Do you think the spiritual stove is Chinese cabbage? You can give it if you say so." Nae rolled his eyes. Long Dang Dang touched Long Kong Kong. "If you want to be a teacher, you should be a teacher. I think the senior holy knight didn't bring a spiritual stove, so he can owe it." Long Kong Kong said angrily, don't worship. I am a person who wants to lie down. What teacher do I worship? What does it matter to me no matter how strong he is?" Long Dang Dang urged, "You are stupid. If you worship the 9th rank as your teacher, who will dare to be difficult for your father in the future? First learn from the teacher, and then it is up to you to learn or not." "Well, if you are a teacher, I can consider it. I'm still switching classes with you. In our class, there are so many beauties. Have you ranked the beauties you mentioned last time?" Long Kong Kong blinked. "If you want to say that, it's not impossible to think about it." Nae looked at the 2 bastards in front of him. The corners of his mouth twitched, but thinking about what he had experienced before coming here, he still gritted his teeth and held back. Long Dang Dang turned to Nei and said, "Senior, if you promise to owe my younger brother a spiritual stove, I will let him worship you as a teacher. What do you think? Oh, and, after you have been a teacher, you can't go back on your word. My brother a little tired, you can see it, you can't give up on him just because of this." Nae angrily compared the contract in his hand. "Did you see it? This is the scroll of the contract between master and apprentice. Once the contract is signed, it can never be repented. I will be a teacher for 1 day and a father for the rest of my life. Can have this one disciple. He can no longer be a teacher, and I can no longer accept apprentices." Long Dang Dang's eyes lit up, and he winked at Long Kong Kong. Also realized something at this moment. With the cover of the 9th level, his father will not be able to beat himself casually in the future, and no one will talk about imposters for this sloppy teacher. Didn't he say that once the contract is signed, he can't go back on his word? Then you promise to owe me a spiritual stove? Long Kong Kong stepped forward and accepted the contract. Okay. Can Lao Tzu's disciples still lack a spiritual furnace? I promise you. Nae just wanted to cut through the mess quickly and get this talented disciple. As soon as innate spiritual power is 87, coupled with the spirit furnace of Yuan Vortex, it is possible to become a child of light. How can those guys compete with themselves? At the same time he agreed, Long Kong Kong quickly opened the scroll and signed his name on the disciple's place. In an instant, the scroll turned into a brilliant golden light which shrouded between the master and the apprentice at the same time. The golden light was like a bridge, creating a close connection between them in the dark. This video will end here.